How's that? Can you hear me okay now? I'll just
No,
speak up.
that's lower. It sounds
Check,
muffled.
check.
It got quieter. Can you hear me okay, Jeff?
I can hear you great.
Okay. Okay, we're going to increase your volume a little bit.
If you can't get it up to where you like it, I can.
That's good.
That's great.
That's good.
Oh, good.
Okay, don't move.
December 14th. Okay. And I guess I could put it in here till I'm. Test.
I'm not
Okay.
speaking, so I'm not talking, so there's no need for me to be on there.
You all set, Keegan? Okay. All right. Let's call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. Secretary, call the roll.
Aiello,
Here.
Barry. Here. Casper,
Here.
Jackson,
Here.
Lloyd,
Here.
Nenza, Malloy.
Here. First up is Superintendent's report.
Yes, thanks. Our first item is School Board Members Day, which is coming up this Thursday, November 15th. As you know, School Board Members Day is an honorary day that offers us an opportunity to recognize the leadership and dedication of our local school board members. Board members give up their personal and family time voluntarily for the successful education of our children. They do so without compensation, and I think it's particularly important to point out that they're doing so in really turbulent and difficult, challenging times. So I'm just like to open by saying thank you for the work that you do on behalf of children, families, entire communities in District 146. John Malloy, Darcy Nenza, Julie Berry, Vince Aiello, Dean Casper, Julie Jackson, and Rick Lloyd. Thank you for the work that you do for the children, families of District 146 community. We appreciate your service. Thank you very much. It's no coincidence that, oh, good. I can't. Great. So thank you for that round of applause. It's no coincidence that Board Member Day is part of American Education Week. Well, actually, it's not. It's followed by American Education Week, November 18th through the 22nd, which is a time to celebrate public education and honor our staff members who make a difference in our students' lives, ensuring that every child receives a high-quality public education. The Board of Education typically provides luncheons for all staff, but this year, due to COVID, we're switching it up a bit, and we'll provide staff instead with a small gift in lieu of the luncheons. Our hope is to carry out the luncheon tradition in the spring during Staff Appreciation Week. So we thank the board for their generosity in providing the small gift to faculty and staff and the luncheon that we look forward to hopefully in the spring. I can't tell, but is Wendy present?
She's not.
No, she's
Vern,
not here.
is she present electronically?
No,
Can you tell me that?
No, she's not.
I'm actually kind of worried.
She came down under the weather a bit this afternoon, so it was some question whether or not she was going to make it in time. She was going to give us just a brief report on hybrid learning. We're almost a week into it at the elementary level, and so far it's gone really, really well. The teachers were so excited to see the kids. The kids were so excited to come to school. There are some challenges with getting families to do the self certification on a daily basis, and then giving the tangible evidence to the child to bring to school for admission. But I'm sure that that's going to start going better as we practice a little bit more. The hybrid learning itself is going very well so far, and we look forward to beginning that in just a couple days here at Central. So we look forward to that. As you know, COVID numbers in the state of Illinois have been increasing recently. I will say that our numbers inside the buildings are very good, and I contend that the bit of COVID that we have seen has been so far 100% attributable to time not at school. So the key really then is to make sure that folks that are not feeling well don't come to school and don't come to work, and that's the main purpose of that self health check daily certification is to make sure that no one comes into our buildings with symptoms. So I just wanted to reinforce those health and safety procedures. If parents have any questions about what they should do or shouldn't do, or how the district is handling student health or employee health, I just want to refer them back to our website, where we've got all of our documents up to date. So I just wanted to make that statement, just to reassure the community that we're doing all we can, and that there's a big role for the parent and student to play in that, and that is to complete that daily self-certification every day before they come to school, and then to bring the written receipt of completion with them to school on a daily basis. That will be very helpful to us. The only other item that I have, John, in the superintendent's report is discussion about the holiday calendar. There were a number of districts that were considering doing like a cool down period after Thanksgiving and after winter break, where the first 2 weeks back would be full remote. And the idea is that families of staff and families of students are going to likely intermingle with other extended family during the holidays, and that would give them some time to, kind of naturally quarantine a bit before they return to school. And, I think that idea has a good deal of merit. Of course, the other side of that coin is, since we're prepared to quarantine or go full remote at any time, an individual class or an individual building if necessary, the idea of putting the entire school district on the bench so that you don't have to bench smaller groups of kids is kind of like the other side of that argument. I talked to the districts that feed District 230 this morning, and there are 2 that are considering it. Last time I spoke with them about a week ago, it sounded like about half of them were going to do it and about half of them weren't. As of right now, none of them are going to do it, but there's 2 that are considering it. So I just wanted to raise it for some board discussion tonight, if that's something that the board wanted us to entertain. I'm leaning towards not, because like I said, if there are places or groups of clusters of kids that need to be quarantined, we're prepared to do that. But I wanted to hear from the board. The other thing we can do is not do it after Thanksgiving and then reevaluate for winter break. If we have an outbreak after the Thanksgiving holiday, certainly we could rethink whether or not we were going to do it after winter break. But of course, this is something that's very disruptive to families, so we'd want to give them as much notice as possible if we were going to require their child to be full remote for an extended period of time. Of course, it's disruptive already, like when kids need to quarantine, their parents essentially given no notice, and the kid has to go full remote immediately. So we're in kind of a turbulent time either way you slice it. So it's just a question of how much preemptive mitigation you want to do versus stay open for as many kids as possible. And I'm trying to weigh those 2 things against each other. the board have any initial thinking on this? This isn't something that we need to necessarily decide tonight, but if it is something you want to do or explore, it's something I'd want to start doing very quickly so that we can give families as much notice as possible.
Jeff, I don't have a calendar in front of me. How many weeks are between Thanksgiving and the Christmas break, or the winter break?
I'm opening a calendar right now. So we return from Thanksgiving on Monday, December 30th. And there are 1, 2, 3.5 weeks before winter break. So it would be more than half of that if you did it after Thanksgiving, John.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it would, I personally don't think it would be good for the kids to be put in remote for 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. Maybe rethink it for after winter break.
Yeah, John, I think that part of it is routine too. When we talk about the challenges of getting families to self-certify every day, we're going to get them used to doing that, and then we're going to have them not do it for the period of the break and then a couple weeks after, and then we're going to have to teach them how to, get them doing it again. And on the other hand, we'll probably see a surgence of positive cases after each one of these breaks. That's been, we had a little increase. The state had an increase after the Halloween intermingling of people. I think it's reasonable to expect that there'll be one after Thanksgiving and again after winter break. The question is whether we want to do something about that proactively, or if we're just going to kind of weather that resurgence with our guidelines and then just quarantine whoever needs to be in order to be safe. But you're right, John, that would be more than half of the time between Thanksgiving and winter break if you wanted to do it after Thanksgiving. But obviously we've got more buffer we've got unlimited buffer after winter break if that's something you want to revisit for then.
I think,
Go ahead, Rick.
in talking to, because I think the Catholic schools are adopting this after winter break, and in talking to them, the rationale was because they were anticipating so many families traveling and taking vacations to states that are on the restricted list at this point, which is basically just about all of them, if you actually look at the list. And so the feeling was they were doing it after winter break because there's going to be so many families that would not be able to self-certify, at least not honestly, because they've been traveling to places where you're supposed to quarantine when you come back. And so, I mean, given that our Thanksgiving break is pretty short this year, right? It's only Thursday, Friday. I mean, it's basically just a long weekend. I don't think that would necessarily come into consideration for us. And I mean, frankly, I like the idea of setting the routine, and if people are traveling or whatever, then that's on them to be honest and follow the protocols and do what they have to do. And I don't think it's necessarily fair to other people that have put aside plans, sometimes specifically because they want to be able to get back into school, to necessarily do that. So I'd be disinclined to want to do it at either point, but I think it especially doesn't make a lot of sense after Thanksgiving. And, if people want to revisit Christmas, I guess I'd be open to talking about it, but my feeling right now is I'd say either one. I'd want to just keep what we got going.
Rick, I want to clarify about travel. Inside the city of Chicago, travel to those states that are considered red states requires a quarantine when you return. In Greater Cook County, it's just a guideline. It's not a requirement. So in our daily self-certification of staff, we ask them if they've traveled out of the country, but we don't ask them if they've traveled to other states. So we don't require them to self-quarantine when they return from other states. And really, that would be kind of a nightmare because there's so many that travel to Wisconsin or Michigan or Indiana over the weekend, and they would either have to lie to us or they'd have to quarantine for 2 weeks every time they did that, and we can't afford for them to do that. So, we're kind of letting interstate travel happen freely among the staff. And then they only have to self-report if they've traveled out of the country to one of the countries that's on the hot list. I agree with the list of states. It's kind of outrageous in the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois when a good half of the states that are on the no travel list have a lower positivity rate than the state of Illinois, where it almost seems like folks would be safer traveling to those states than just staying in their home state. I don't really understand the thinking behind that to begin with, but I understand why, if you were in the city of Chicago and that's a requirement, why you would maybe want to do that after winter break, just so that you don't have half your team on the bench when you're trying to get kids back.
Sure.
That's not a concern for us. We don't have to shut down when that happens.
Okay, I appreciate the clarification.
You got it. What do any other board members have an opinion one way or the other on this issue?
I agree with John and Rick. I think that you're creating more issues because you're starting them, and then all of a sudden we're going to say, oh, well, now we're going back to remote. Then you're going to start them again and then say, okay, then we're going back to remote. It's just too much change, and I think it's inconvenient for the parents too. At least if they know that this is how it's going to be, I think it's a little easier on them to do.
Thanks, Vince.
Anybody else?
No, that makes sense. The jumping back and forth is going to be too chaotic.
Yeah, and like I said, we've got a mechanism in place where if we feel like a classroom is seeing an outbreak or a grade level or a school building, we've got the ability to switch those segments to full remote pretty quickly. And that would allow those that it's safe to be in person to still be in person, and those that it's not to not be. Those things are challenging. I say those things to you guys and make it sound so easy, and then I can just feel the administration kind of rolling their eyes, because every time we do something like that, it's a challenge for them. But they've been rising to the occasion time and time again, and I have to just restate that what Central has done, getting ready for this Wednesday, it's just it's nothing short of heroic. And Vince and Vern and Angie and a good number of members of the cabinet have been working hard to help Central as well. But Randy and Sal and Allison and their team have just been pretty much round the clock and all weekend long. So I think we've got a good result, and I'm super excited for them. I know they're eager to see their kiddos. So, John, I'm having trouble kind of reading the room, but that's all I have for the superintendent's report. If the board has no further comment about coming out of the breaks.
Anybody else? Does that help you with any kind of direction?
Yeah, I'm good, John.
Okay, then we can move along.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, next up, are there any citizens at this time that would like to address the board?
Good evening. My name is Shane Wilson. My son is a student here at Central. I have had the privilege of addressing this board several times this year. I concur with Dr. Stawick that the efforts that these schools are making to make this plan work have been extraordinary. I regret that we're using the word heroic, because that means that we're putting them in the position where they have to be heroes when they're just supposed to be educators and administrators. And while I have tremendous respect for Dr. Stawick, I have to take issue with a couple things that he's just said, because I feel like they misstate the issues that we're facing. He mentioned that the screening program, the self-screening, is the key to the success of this, which I continue to not understand, because we're talking about a disease which infects while you are asymptomatic. You can fill out that form, you can take that temperature, and it will not in any way indicate whether or not you are infected. That's only valuable after the fact, after you've already infected others. That's the reason for the spread of the disease. I don't know why we consider that a benefit. The other thing that concerns me about what he said is that he acknowledged that numbers are going up widely in the area, in the state, in the country. But that didn't seem to be a concern, and I remain confused by that. I have figures from today's Chicago Tribune Online. State health officials Monday again reported more than 10,000 new confirmed and probable COVID-19 cases. This is the fourth consecutive day the state has reported more than 10,000 new confirmed cases of COVID-19, and the 15th straight day that hospitalizations increased. The 7-day statewide positivity rate increased to 11.4%. 3 more regions of Illinois, including those covering DuPage, Kane, Will, and Kankakee counties, will be ordered to limit gatherings to 10 people this week. With hundreds of students and teachers in quarantine, Schaumburg, School District 54, has halted in-person instruction and returned to remote learning. Many Chicago area hospitals are again barring visitors as the number of cases continues to climb in Illinois. But that's statewide. When I go to patch.com and I go to November 2nd, in suburban Cook County, Region 10, the positivity rate surged by 2.7 percentage points in the 7 days leading up to November 2nd, rising from 8.6 to 11.3%. In Tinley Park alone, the Public Health Department reported 106 new cases in the past week. Tinley has had a 3% increase in confirmed cases in the past 14 days. The decision to bar indoor service at bars and restaurants is the first time this additional mitigation measure has been applied to suburban Cook County. Palos Heights School District 218 high schools will be going back to full remote learning beginning November 2nd for a minimum of 2 weeks due to a rise in COVID-19 cases. And in DuPage County, our neighbors, cases for those under the age of 20 were up 62% in the last week in October. I sat down with my son's calculator, and one of the benefits of remote learning is that I've learned how much better my son is at math than I am. But I looked at the 800 kids who just go to Central, the 60% of them who are going back as part of the hybrid program. And I look at an 11% infection rate, and I look at 56 kids who would be infected. And the CDC says that roughly a quarter of those infected need some sort of hospitalization. And the Mayo Clinic says that if children are hospitalized, they need to be treated in the intensive care unit as often as hospitalized adults. We have this notion that kids aren't affected, that kids aren't harmed by this disease, and that's not the case. But that's just talking about kids. We're not talking about the teachers, the staff, the administrators, the support personnel, who are all being called upon to perform these heroic measures to make this happen. I don't have any illusions that you're going to stop this, and the massive turnout here suggests that I am very much in the minority. But I come back to the same question I've asked you several times, and that question is why? Why are we doing this? Why do we feel we're special? Why do we think that things are going to be different for us? There's no evidence to suggest that's the case, and I can't escape the notion that we are like people standing outside a burning building and saying, we should go in, no one out here has gotten burned yet. I've looked in vain to find something other than the superintendent's reports to suggest what's behind this. You know, his comments in his letters suggest that the issue is we just can't go on like this. I've been told privately that we're concerned about the mental health and the social anxieties of our children because they're remote. And I can't really balance that against the social anxiety of sending kids to school, making them wear masks, making their teachers rotate, making them unable to interact with each other, how we're actually making things better. I've looked up your Facebook pages to see if maybe somebody out here is saying something, and no, the superintendent, the unelected representative of the district, is the only voice we hear. I know it's not my place to ask for an answer. I know it's not your place to give an answer. That's not the purpose of this in the meeting. But I want to hear from you, and I'd like to think I'm not the only one. I continue to not understand why we endanger the people who we treasure so much, our children, and the people who are tasked with educating our children. At the last meeting, Dr. Staywick came up to me and he said, you know, I'm not a scientist. You seem really well versed on this. Well, I have to admit, I'm not a scientist either. But I'm looking at what scientists are saying, and they're saying this not only continues to be a danger, but we're moving into the period where it's going to get worse. We're all going to be staying inside. It's going to be colder. And as you've all talked about, we're going to be traveling and either carrying what we have to other states or bringing back what we get from other states. I will leave you with my question again. Why is this necessary? Why is a plan that has worked for us for this first trimester with really surprising success being abandoned for one that shortchanges our students with shorter classes and a weird, mixed up, divided plan for education? I still would like to know why.
Thank you. Okay, moving along, union reports.
Good evening. My name is Julie Harris, and I'm the president of District 146 Certified Staff Teachers Union. It's been a while since I've stood before this audience and spoken on behalf of the teachers. The union recognizes the task that this board and administration needed to undergo in order to bring our students back to school. We have sat in the audience and watched board meetings online where you were sometimes attacked. We refrained from getting involved during those turbulent meetings and chose to work alongside administration, knowing that whatever reopening plan was chosen, we would stand beside it and support it. We also appreciate being a part of developing the reopening plan. So much has happened between then and now. We have seen COVID numbers steadily increase month after month, and today they remain significantly higher than they were back in March when schools across the nation shut down. We see that in Region 10, which is our region, that as of 3 days ago, the largest place of exposure locations in our region is coming from schools. Last week, our elementary schools reopened to students. Class sizes for in-person learning are significantly smaller to help our teachers, our students, and their families stay safe. Safety protocols have been implemented in all buildings to ensure a safe return to school. Class sizes on the remote side have increased due to many parents making the decision to switch from in-person to remote learning because of climbing COVID numbers. These remote learning class sizes are growing by the day and are reaching a level of concern in some buildings. Teachers at the elementary school have also lost at least 20 minutes of plan time per day to accommodate for the new schedules. There are several things that need to be brought to the board's attention this evening. First of all are the class sizes at Central Middle School. The day after tomorrow, CMS will welcome back nearly 500 students, all at the same time, all for 3 hours a day. While teachers were told that efforts would be made to ensure that class sizes would remain at 16 or fewer, over 30% of the in-person sections at CMS will have 17 or more students when they return on Wednesday. At last count, there were 5 sections with 17 students, 10 sections with 18 students, 9 sections with 19 students, 4 sections with 20 students, 8 sections with 21 students, and 2 sections with 22 students. I have seen firsthand how hard the administration at CMS has worked on student schedules. It was nearly an impossible feat that took multiple very late nights to complete. I believe every effort was put into making the class sizes as small as possible, but many of them aren't so small. I don't have an answer on how to make it better. I wish I did. I am confident that the teachers at CMS will do everything in their power to ensure safety, but it needs to be stated publicly that along with losing half of their current plan time, teachers at CMS will continue to have crowded classrooms. Second, and before I begin with this request, I want to remind everyone in this room and those watching online why we are here, why I am addressing you. Our nation is in the midst of a deadly pandemic, a pandemic that has killed over 238,000 people and has infected 10.1 million so far. It is raging across this nation, and especially in this state and in this region. It has already reached our schools. It has already reached some of our teachers. I am asking that District 146 provide some sort of metric on COVID numbers in our schools to staff and to parents. Many school districts are providing this information to their teachers and their families via their district websites to keep them in the know as to current COVID numbers. If teachers are now to be considered frontline workers, they deserve the courtesy of knowing how safe their buildings and classrooms are and what the infection rate is in their buildings. Parents also deserve to have this information before sending their children to school. I would also like to ask that administration and the board reconsider the conversation that happened earlier and consider a discussion on implementing a full remote schedule for 2 weeks after holiday breaks. It is a known fact that family gatherings will be occurring over Thanksgiving and winter breaks. Families will leave their bubbles and travel to other places and mingle with people outside of their bubbles. It is scientifically proven that COVID is transferred in family gatherings like this. Once students return from breaks like these, cases will rise in our schools. Many school districts are implementing such procedures to ensure the safety of their staff and students. I would encourage this district to be proactive, get ahead of this very possible future outbreak, do their part to help contain it. I also ask that the district develop a threshold as to when to revert to full remote learning. Currently, the plan is that we will remain open until the governor shuts us down. How is this safe? How is this a plan? How does this safely protect teachers and students? It doesn't. We need a plan. We need to ensure the safety of our teachers and our families. Throughout this entire pandemic, the teachers of District 146 have done everything they can to ensure that learning continues, that their students are given the best possible education that a teacher can give, and that the social emotional needs of our students are being addressed. I have never seen teachers working harder than I have over the last 9 months. We are teachers. That is what we do. That's what we will continue to do. We only ask that the board meet us halfway and listen to us. Hear our concerns, as these concerns can be a matter of life and death. We don't often ask for much. We take direction. We follow the lead of our administration. We are, however, asking for a safe return to school, reasonable class sizes, a system of reporting COVID cases to both teachers and parents, and a change to remote learning should metrics continue to rise, as well as after school breaks, in order to keep the teachers and our students safe. Thanks.
Thanks, Julie. Okay, moving on, action items. Can I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I move we approve item 6.1, approval of minutes, 6.2, approval of closed session minutes, 6.3, approval of destruction of closed session tapes, 6.4, approval of financial items, and 6.5, approval of personnel items.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, Secretary, call the roll.
Aiello,
Yes.
Barry, yes. Casper,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lloyd,
Yes.
Malloy.
Yes. 6.6, approval of resolution authorizing membership in the Suburban School Cooperative Insurance Pool and authorizing the execution of its intergovernmental cooperative agreement and a second comprehensive amendment to the intergovernmental cooperative agreement.
Yes, this is what we talked about at our committee meeting last week. The insurance co-op that our district is a part of currently is folding, and we need to find insurance coverage through another means. So SKIP, this group listed here, is the group that I have chosen after looking around. And this resolution is what will get us into the new co-op.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move we adopt item 6.6, approval of the resolution authorizing membership in the Suburban School Cooperative Insurance Pool, as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, Secretary call the roll.
Aiello,
Yes.
Barry, yes. Casper,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lloyd,
Yes.
Malloy.
Yes. Discussion items 7.1 preliminary tax levy.
Yes, this is the time of year when we look at our tax levy for the upcoming year. This is just information this month. The actual resolution will come to you next month. It's a pretty straightforward levy this year. The CPI is 2.3%, so that is the amount of new money that we'll be entitled to. We're asking for a levy increase of 4% just to make sure we capture the full 2.3%. And I think that's about it. I'll entertain questions if anybody has a question.
Is there any questions from the board? Okay, moving on to supplemental tax levy.
All right, this one was a new one to me also. In 2018, we issued some working cash bonds to fund the construction of the additions to the buildings. And as part of that, we were paying a portion of the bond payments out of our accumulated fund balance in the bond and interest fund. We have since used up all of that, but we still have about $50,000, $54,000 I think is the exact amount, that needs to be covered by an additional, it's called a supplemental tax levy. And we are able to capture that because the debt service extension base it increases by CPI each year. So next month when we do the tax levy, we'll be asking for a supplemental levy. It's just a one-time thing that we're doing this 1 year in order to pay the full amount of our bonds that are due next year.
What's that amount again, Jeff?
The amount is, it's 54,000 and some, I don't have the exact amount in front of me. It's going to be about $54,000.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, if we didn't approve this, we would end up basically defaulting on our bonds because we wouldn't have enough
No,
money to pay,
we would
right?
still pay the bonds. We would just have to pay it out of our ed fund balance.
Okay.
We don't want to do that.
No, this is new to me. I'm trying to understand.
We're paying it one way or the other, but this would allow us to pay for it out of a dedicated tax levy that goes
Yeah,
toward bonds.
Makes sense.
So no action tonight. This is just info,
Just information.
and you'll be seeing the resolution that's attached in board docs next month as we ask for approval then.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Okay, and that brings us to the end of the meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
May Secretary call the roll?
Aiello,
Yes.
Barry, yes. Casper,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lloyd,
Yes.
Malloy.
Yes, we are adjourned. Thank you for coming out.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeff.